Oh, good evening to our friends on the East Coast and the West Coast. And this is the Boomerang Radio Show. My name is William A. Brown. I see Dr. Cecilia Sims with us tonight. And so let's do this. Let's take care of some things here. So, welcome everyone. Hey, tune in. I invite you to tune each and every day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, with some of the finest programs you can find anywhere around the world. Music, talk, sports, comedy, entertainment, and a whole lot more. We bring on an interview. Well, we have conversations with brand new artists, up and coming artists, brand new music, just a lot of talk and a lot of connectivity. So, welcome again. Dr. Sims, how are you? Okay, I think she's with us here somewhere. We're going to continue on. Today, I want to talk about a lot of things that's on my mind, and I'm sure some of these things have crossed yours as well. The economy, we talked about that. Let's go on. Let's talk about what's going on with Congress. Uh, some illegal activities out here, and especially when we start talking about Congress, there's so many scandals that's coming out. Every day there's a brand new scandal. But I want to talk about that and a whole lot more. Uh, at the top of the hour, we have a special guest. That's Mr. Peter Regner, one of my favorite historians. Just a great person. I'm sure you'll learn a lot from him. So again, Dr. Sims. Okay, I'm not sure that she can hear me. I hope she can. Okay, check your Mac, Dr. Sims. All right. I can hear something in the background. Let's do this. Okay. Dr. Sims? Okay. I'm sure she'll join us shortly. So, folks, I want you to pay attention to something that's going on. And that is if you hear something coming out of this administration, you can count many times that the opposite is true. They talk about DEI. And is it really about DEI or is it something else? I'll tell you what I mean about that in a minute. You hear about blowing up boats off of, the coast of Venezuela. Was it about drug trafficking? Come to find out, it wasn't about that at all. It was really to get their hands on Venezuelan oil and uh, and their precious minerals and things like that. And they want a regime change. So what I'm saying is that the opposite is true. It's either a confession or a distraction. You got the Epstein case, and this thing has tentacles beyond belief. It's even beyond sexual crimes against minors. It digs a lot more. It's a lot deeper than that because it talks about foreign affairs, foreign governments, regimes, and things of that nature, and a lot of big money, folks. Like I said, if they tell you one story, you might want to look a little bit deeper because there's always something deeper going on. Okay, with that, what I'm going to do, since this is Black History Month, I'm going to play a clip right here and wait for Dr. Sims to join us again. Okay, let's see what's happening here. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you like this program, please drop a like and share it with a friend. Okay, let's do that. Okay, and subscribe to our channel as well. So let's do this. I have something for you. Let's do this in honor of Black History Month.
Full erasures in American business history. You were taught Ford was first, but they never told you a black man beat him to it.
Wow.
Charles Richard Patterson, born enslaved, didn't just dream of freedom. He built carriages, then cars. And in 1915, C.R. Patterson and Sons became the first black-owned car company in U.S. history. But here's the part they'll never teach. While Ford was being celebrated and funded, Patterson was blocked, blackballed, and buried. No loans, no factories, no space to grow. White America made sure his company wouldn't survive. And when Patterson's company disappeared, so did the truth. But not anymore. If your classroom never taught this, it wasn't an accident. Comment Patterson if you're done letting them erase our black innovators. Tag someone who needs to hear the real history of the road. because the lie they sold you started long before the engine even turned on. This is one of the most shameful erasures in American business history.
All right, we're here. Dr. Sims, how are you?
I'm blessed today. How are you?
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much. Couldn't hear you at first, so you had to come back in. Looking lovely.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, yes, yeah. And so we are celebrating Black History. And I'm not sure whether you had heard of, had you heard of C.R. Patterson before?
No.
And see, this is
C.R.
what we're talking
Patterson?
about. C.R. Patterson. That was the clip I just played earlier. And it was the
Okay.
first Black car company in the United States. See, these are
Oh,
things that, go on, please.
no, I'm listening.
Yeah. So these are things that we don't get. And so I love sharing these stories because I think that they are uplifting and motivating to our young adults. They have
Hmm.
someone else, they have role models, real role models that they can look back on. And and this thing about it is that's why it troubles me when these people are misusing the acronym DEI, diversity, inclusion, equity, and inclusion. And it
Hmm.
troubles me because they're saying that as a Black person, you aren't as smart as, you aren't as talented or educated as educated. And the opposite is true, and they know that. Otherwise, why would they want to bury this history?
Well, and
That's
and I, if I may, um,
please.
I was listening to many things. You know how they gave us the list and all the inventors and what have you, and who couldn't patent whatever because of the time frame. But I learned something about other inventors that I didn't even know about,
Hmm.
inventing hospitals and things. I mean, creating hospitals and jobs in the medical field because the white population did not want them in their hospitals working. In fact, down through the eons of time, they treated the black patients very badly. And I've got a clip, not a clip, but a notation on this gentleman who built a hospital from the ground up. In
Hmm.
fact, these hospitals, our Caucasians, brothers and sisters, wouldn't even allow the black women who completed their nursing schooling to be nurses in the white hospitals. And so a lot of things, and I'm running across a lot of things that the things that you see, the satellites and things like that, we had a major hand in that. And so I was just questioning, and I question the Lord a lot, but what is it about us that make people so jealous that they have to steal everything we have and make it
Mm.
possibly theirs? You said something about DEI. I'm facing something now. I'm looking in some areas now that DEI is not really working for us. Okay, if I can make it plain, other people are taking advantage of it, from other ethnic groups, and the prejudice is real. And I may be getting ahead of the conversation, but the prejudice is very, very real with
Hmm.
other ethnic groups against us. And I question, what is it about us? My goodness gracious. We played a
Hmm.
major part in the creativity. We're brainiacs. You can't stop us, even though you try. And then you try to erase history. And I know that right now, history about what we've invented, what we've had our hand in, is coming out more now than ever before, and they can't stop it. And they try to
Hmm.
erase it. They cannot. The receipts are being shown, okay? And so I'm wondering how they feel about that now, when they try to
Mm.
put our history in the archives and make us unknown, and they put their label, their names on it. And so that's just some questions I have in my mind. I wanted to bring that out. Where's
I'm
everybody?
glad you did. I tell you, see, this is the thing. You say, well, what is it? Why? And it seems like over everyone, the Black man and Black woman is targeted. Okay, I do understand there's racial prejudice, there's discrimination. If you're not white, in a lot of cases, you're discriminated against. But then when it comes, but the ultimate betrayal, I think, and when you really get down to it, the black man is targeted. And I'm not trying to say this from a victim mentality.
Mm-mm.
I'm not coming there. What I'm coming from is that there's something about us more than anyone else that they want to put down. And I tell you what it is. It's our genius. Because if you if you take a man's education away from him, and you take it, that diminishes him, his self-esteem, his self-worth. Okay, as a boy, I remember being discriminated against and walking up and down the street, minding my own business. You know, somebody throwing a glass bottle out of the car, calling me a nigger, and this
Right.
type of thing, right? And so then I learned that they tried to keep us from reading.
Mm.
So I said, okay, if you're smarter than I am, if you're superior to me, then why are you afraid that I can read, or are you trying to take that away from me? Because you know the opposite is true. They know our history better than we do. And if you can go all the way back to civilization, where the Moors taught Europe
Mm-hmm.
sophistication, culture, architecture, agriculture. The black man taught that. Okay,
Well,
so
William, you know
it is
what? And I'm sorry. Is it
go
okay?
on.
Okay. What I'm
Go on,
looking
jump
at,
on in.
and even though they try to demean us, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
by no means prejudiced, but I hate the prejudice activity that's going on and what has gone on for far too long. I'm finding out that they don't want you to say anything. They want you to accept their behavior.
Of course.
And now that everything is coming out, it's like, what are you going to do now? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking about that this morning. I says, all of the information that has been hidden, the creativity. I mean, sometimes they didn't have to read a book from some of our inventors, the knowledge that we have of them.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't know a book. But I believe that what we have, what I've derived in my mind, that God has given us such a special gift because we are a special people, period. Which for history, eons of time, they try to destroy our lineage, they try to destroy us, and we keep coming back in full force. And they're not understanding it. But here's the deal, when we've got somebody higher up who is on our side, you cannot eliminate something that has been gifted and blessed. Okay, I'm gonna be real.
Mm-hmm.
And my thing is this, the enemy, if you even look at it, let's just put it all in a nutshell. The enemy in a nutshell has always tried to outdo, if you understand, try to outdo God, okay, which he cannot, and by any means necessary. So why not take away from me and away from you and make it look like somebody else? I was thinking about who is that? Elvis Presley, who used to hang around Big Mama Thornton. And people thought, oh
Mm-hmm.
my God, he was just so gifted. No, what they do is, and I tell my children this, they sit around you and they study you, okay, to the point that they get your
Mm-hmm.
behavior, they pick your brain, and that's why I'm telling my children to keep your mouth shut. Don't tell them everything, okay? Keep them
Mm-hmm.
guessing. But then too, William, something is coming out. I might be jumping here and there. Something's coming out because everybody ethnic group has derived from us. Okay, and they don't like to hear that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at our white brothers. They are, seems like they went back in the wood pile and picked up their blackness. Okay. And it seems like something is coming
Mm-hmm.
on natural to them. If people would pay attention to the music and the way they're singing now, where did you get that from? You couldn't get it just from listening.
Mm-hmm.
It's in your genes because it came from me and it came from you. And where the separation
Mm-hmm.
came was years ago. Somebody had the idea to think that they were more superior than anybody else. And so, guess what? There was this
Mm-hmm.
separation to make you think the white man was just
Mm-hmm.
supposed to act a certain way that's so different. And he smothered his blackness. Okay. The DNA, if they
Mm-hmm.
would do their DNA, a lot of them going to be a whole lot surprised and might pass out. Okay. Because
Yeah, yeah.
there's some of us
I've got
in
a question for
all
you.
cultures, you know? Some of us in
I
all
I have a
cultures, and it
question
can't
for
be
you, Dr. Stern.
denied. Yes.
I have a question for you. You have a lot of people that believe in the Bible, and you have some that don't. Okay,
Mhm.
everyone has heard the story about Adam and Eve,
Right.
and according to the Bible, Adam and Eve were the first human beings created on this earth. Am I correct about that?
Right. Absolutely.
Am I correct?
You're correct. Correct.
What race was Adam and Eve?
Now let's
Were
thank
they
you for
white?
asking that. No, they weren't. No, they weren't.
Come on,
Because they were made in the
go
image of
on, go on.
God, of Jesus. Now, when Jesus came here on this
Okay,
earth, remember I told you he had
okay,
lamb's wool
okay,
hair, type of hair,
okay.
and he was dark in complexion,
Uh-huh. Come on,
bronze colored skin.
come
And
on.
guess what? The Catholicism is now admitting who Jesus looked like, what he was. They hid it in the
Come on.
archives for years. Now they cannot do it any
Mhm.
longer. And so a lot of things come into
So,
fruition because in the Bible, people would read their Bible. The Lord says, I would not have you ignorant concerning these things. If you want to know
mhm,
something, ask me. Now, here's a kicker. I was looking about King
mm,
James, and if anybody studies the Bible about King James, he went in there with his tyrant self. He was nothing holy. He didn't love the Lord. He didn't know him. And he put his name on the most holy
mm,
book. He went in there, he distorted some stuff. He took some stuff out. He
mm,
left some things out of the history that he didn't want us to
mhm,
know. And so he put his name
mhm,
on there. And I used to wonder, my son brought it out in church one time. That troubled my spirit. And it's hard for me to pick up a King James Bible now because I know what that name means
ooh,
and his character and what he's done.
mhm,
He's ripped up pages and he ripped up pages out of there to keep me in bondage. Okay. And they're using it.
mhm,
That's why they wrote the Negro Bible. They use certain
mhm.
scriptures to keep us tamed, if I could say that word. And so if people would learn to
Of course.
wake up, if they would wake up and see what is actually going to, we are not cattle to be tamed. Okay. But what
Mhm,
does power do?
mhm,
Power does this. He
mhm,
makes you feel less than so that he can govern and control you. Because people like that fear you, period. They fear you. They do. Okay. Because of what you can do, where you come
yes,
from.
yes, yes. If they starve you of an education or psychology or food or a ways to take care of yourself, if they strip you
Mhm.
down and make you feel less than, then
Right.
it has a negative impact on the person that's uh, being victimized, you know.
Right.
And if they going back to Adam and Eve, like I said, so if my understanding is correct, if they were the first people on earth, then everyone born after them were our derivatives
That's
or
key.
kin to. Okay.
We all
Now,
kinfolk. Let's just put it out there. We kinfolk. Okay.
oh my
They
goodness,
don't like that.
I
We
love this.
kinfolk. Period.
They, that's right. That's why I love. I know you know who she is. I wish I had pulled one of her clips earlier, and I'm gonna look for that. I'm gonna let you talk for a little bit, so you might have to talk for a few minutes, and I'm gonna see if I can pull
Okay.
up a clip from our sister Jane Elliott.
Okay.
I love you. I know you know who she is.
Mm-hmm.
She's
Mm-hmm.
this white educator.
Oh, she's
I love her.
awesome.
I love her. I love her.
She cancels
I love
whatever
her.
assignment they have in their heads about racial differences. Oh, he can't. She
Hmm.
cancels them out. I
Hmm.
remember her. Yes.
Hmm. Now, going back to my point, and I'm gonna go back to this point. I'm gonna keep going back to this point because if you believe, because everything had to start from something, okay,
Right.
and then God created Adam, right, and
Right.
from Adam's rib, He created Eve, if I'm understanding. So
Correct.
that means that our great going all the way back to Adam and Eve, okay, and then the genius in man had to come from God, right?
Of course. Of course.
Okay. And if we were created in the image of God, That's why they're trying to put us down. They want to take away from and diminish from that standpoint. Don't let them know how smart they are. But then, if you look at who had to come over here and build this country, I'm talking about agriculture, all the way up to the various inventions, Dr. Sims, that you brought up. People like Grandma T. Woods,
Yeah.
Booker T. Washington. I mean, we can go on and on and on. I have so many up here. I've got a few more. And I'm going to play one more clip, and then I want you to take over for a
Okay.
second, and I'm going to see if I can
Where
plug
is
this other
everybody else? Where's Ann
Oh,
and
and she had to
Mike?
take care of her mom. She had to take care
Right.
of her mom.
Very good.
Okay. And Mike, I'm glad you brought that up. And Mike, he's not with us today because it was a celebration of life for his brother who passed away on the
Yes.
18th.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Yes,
Yes. Yes.
yes. So
Yes.
I,
Yes.
I
Yes.
told him I perfectly understood that.
Right.
And then
Exactly.
Greer is at a church service in Atlanta, I believe, somewhere.
Oh,
So
okay.
they'll
All
be with
right.
us. And then coming up in just a few short minutes, we have Mr. Peter Ratcliffe. So I'm going to
Wonderful.
let you talk. I'm going to play this clip, and then I want you to just share with
Well,
the
I'm
audience
I'm going to address the statement
anything.
that you just made regarding
Why don't you
the
do that? Why don't you
genealogy
do
and
that?
the ethnic background
I'll
of
be
the
back shortly. Okay,
biblical base. Okay, so
please,
I
please.
know William asked the question about one family that was made, and the Bible says, to any of you that knows the Word of God, it says, "Let us make man in our image and after our likeness." Now, those of you who are not spiritually discerned, I won't go into the depths of it because it will confuse some until the point where you want to get to really know the essence of this truth and even what the statement is said. But when he made us in his image, and his image is the Son of God, Jesus. All right. So knowing that he made us in his image and it depicts who Jesus, what he looked like, all of us came from one genealogy as far as that's concerned. Now we know a flood took place. We understand that. But you all know that there was only one family spared in the flood. Common sense would tell you if there's only one family, I believe there was about seven, no more than eight, that was spared. All the animals by two were spared. So they had to reprocreate and replenish the nation. There was nothing hiding under the rock or in a cave. Okay. Had another boat, had some kind of outer space experience where they, use their smarts to create ships and things like that to come off the earth until the flood was over. There was one ship, and it took him years to create that ship. But when he was created, of course, God brought the flood. It was because of the sins of the world. I'm short, making this narrative very short. However, if you common sense would tell you there was one family spared, period, and the nationality was the same before the flood started. It didn't shift and change, and colors didn't change while they were on this ship. It did not change. They were who they were. And after the recession of the water, the flood was over. Guess what? That family left and they reprocreated all over the world. So that's why I say we kinfolk. So you can say what you want to say. You can make yourself feel so doggone superior, and that really gets on my nerve. You're not. You're not superior. Everybody has a gift that God has given, period. I was thinking the other day, and in my meditation time, if everybody would just put down their swords and operate in the gifts that God trusted them with, this place would be off the chart as far as the United States or any other place where people are warring against each other. However, God did not create us to war against each other, but you have some sick brothers and sisters who think they're controlling stuff. And see, then you have to know that there's another entity that's been here. He didn't drown, okay, but his evil deeds are still in operation. So, best way to turn people against each other and make us look like one side is better than the others, one race is better. You have to understand When you divide people and go into different continents, it does affect your skin. When I go to, and that's been proven, when I went to, I was thinking about in the colder climates, my skin gets even lighter because it affects my skin. And as well as other, then you have somebody go to the continents such as Africa and places like that where the heat, it affects the skin, right? So it's amazing to me, and even the language. I mean, depends on where you're going. You go to Mexico, you could be able to speak fluent Spanish. You go to China, you can speak fluent Chinese. You can go to any of these other Italian, Italy, you would speak their language fluently because you're around the country, you're born in that country. But that doesn't mean that what God did change at all. It's just that the continents, the changes of the weather, the atmosphere is different from where many of us were. Hi, Mr. Radcliffe. How are you today, sir? I can't hear you. I
Oh,
think you might
I'm
have to.
good, thank you. Thank
Okay,
you.
good. William, just step away and I'm just talking here until he comes back, okay?
Excellent.
All right. And so I was just kind of explaining how people think that they are um, above one another and the superiority issues that we're dealing with. And because the color of his skin. And you look at me, I tell, when they do the census, it's funny. I may jump it off it for a minute, but I'm a mutt. I have so much in my DNA. I am not thorough. There's no thoroughbreds on this earth that people are trying to walk around and make themselves a little more uppity and superior. There's none. I was declaring also biblical principles, and we were all born in the image of God, as He said, "Let us make man in our image." And I told him I won't go through deep depth in that because a lot of people won't understand it unless they get a knowledge and study it and see what God's where God's mind was. Okay, but I do know. And then I talked about the flood, and I talked about there was one family spared. There was nobody up in the spaceship hiding off in a cave. No, everything was demolished when it comes to the humans that were outside of the boat. So there was one family. So if you want to reflect on that, and many don't because they feel like that's going to blow their whole idea of things. And I know we study theology and we study history and have you, and we have people who writes their own mindsets, and that's all right. But my thing is let's go back to the Bible. We need to stay there because, well, I don't want to say it just, hammer that in your head, but let's get your history, okay? Let's get your history and let's find out what happened. One family spared. How did the world get repopulated? Well, God didn't have nobody hiding under rocks. There was no special breed of people who were bearing children. It was that one family who went to different continents, okay, of the earth, and it was repopulated. And some people would say that is so hard to believe. Well, believe it, okay, whether you believe it or not. But there is no one superior. And I was telling William before he got off, I says, it's amazing when I look at my brothers and sisters of all walks of life and colors and uh, displays and talents and things like that. And then you go to let me back up a little bit. There's always somebody somewhere that look just like you, and you wonder why. Okay, has anybody ever told you that? That do you have a brother? Somebody told me I was working at Bank of America. You got a twin sister? I'm like, please bring her because if she steals something, I don't want them coming after me. I know that's the kind of way I think. But when you look at us, when I look at my children, when I look at my family, the lineage, and I look at others in other countries, and I have people in other countries, the bloodline is so strong, it's unreal. And not only that, I have some Native American, I have Spanish, I have Italian, I even have Filipino, Japanese. I had a blue eyed Japanese knock at my door, come, hi, cousin. I'm like, whoa, that blew my mind. And the reason why I did that is because we are so programmed to think that it's only your immediate family. It's only what is around you, and that's it. But when you have family coming from around the continents, that just brings back to my mind one family spirit. So nobody's better than anybody else. And I don't, um, that mindset to me just really kind of gets on my nerves today, because there's nobody better than anybody. And I was telling William, I said, everybody's picking up some of the DNA from me. I'm picking up from them, you know. Um, Most folks tell me when I'm on the phone, they think I'm a Caucasian woman. And I'm like, wow, until they meet me. Or I can go to the Spanish dialect. And they come in and they say, Cecilia, and I speak the lingo, poquito. And so they like, I thought you were Spanish. I'm like, no, but I know how to pick up. Okay. And I think I gave the analogy where people are born. If they're born in Italy, they speak the language. If they're born in Africa, they speak African. If they're born, but if you do their DNA, they may be mixed with something else and what happened. But that's my take on it. And I think that people need to grasp the concept and go and do the research, man. I'm telling you, they need to do that. I'm done. Back to you,
Okay.
William.
Peter,
Yes, sir.
how are you, my friend?
I'm okay. Thank you.
Well, great, great. We're going to get into what's going on in Minnesota, because there, I spoke to you off the air and I said, you know, I hear that things have calmed down in Minnesota. We don't hear about it on mainstream media anymore. Nobody's covering it anymore. And it just seems like for a couple of months or so, everything was in turmoil. And I would say that it didn't have to happen. And we're going to get into it in a little bit. But what I want to do, and I want you to tell us what's going on. I was going to complain about how cold it is here in Virginia, but I know it's colder there in Minnesota. I- what's the temperature there in Minnesota, Peter?
Yeah, so it was about 7 degrees this afternoon for a high
7?
7. Yes, sir.
You said the high was 7.
Yes, sir.
Good. Oh my goodness. I think it's something like maybe 18 degrees here in Richmond. Let me see.
Mhm.
Let's see. Okay. Oh no. All right, let me be quiet. They say it's 35, but it feels like 21. Why don't you just go and say it? It's 21 degrees. Okay, but I can't complain. As Dr. Sims,
Yes.
it's what, 75, 80 degrees where you are in
No,
Southern
not
California?
quite. Tomorrow it's supposed to be about 80. But see, the problem is that
Mm.
at night it's like 34 degrees. And I'm like, the shifting, it's right now it's 76 degrees, I should say.
76
And
degrees. Okay, all right.
yeah, and tonight it'll be
We're going to
46.
move right along. You
It's
see
81
80 degrees, and
degrees.
Peter and I are freezing, and you talk 76 degrees.
But you came
So
from
anyway,
California, so don't even try it. You left California. That's on you.
I did. I did. Okay, okay. I
Mhm.
volunteered that one.
But
Anyway, I
let
want to do
me
something.
start out with Brother William, and while Dr. Sims is with us, and let me just say that
Please.
despite the fact that the high today here in St. Paul, Minnesota was 7 degrees, my wife and I were part of a group of people who showed up at 11:30 a.m. this morning outside of Sacred Heart Catholic Church to provide support for our Spanish-speaking neighbors who were coming out of a Spanish language mass. We are in the first week of Lent, and there was a large crowd of Mexicans, Salvadorans, Hondurans, Guatemalans, parishioners in this church. And we're part of a predominantly white block of neighbors who show up every Sunday to make sure that our Latino neighbors are able to worship as they want and not be threatened by being arrested for going to church.
Mm.
So that's
Mm.
so that stuff is happening here in Minnesota, and a wide range of neighbors speaking many languages, worshiping or not, many religions, are standing with our immigrant neighbors to protect their right to worship as they wish.
You know, that's pretty amazing, Peter. And I love what you're saying because in this time of turmoil and tragedies and things like that, you Minnesotans, I'm so proud of you guys. You are coming together, you know, as a coalition of
Yes.
people. And it doesn't matter about your ethnic background, anything like that. You were there to support one another. And wow, I admire you because this is what we need to do as people around the world. I sent out a
Yes.
clip, I think, a couple weeks ago, and it was something that had to do with a feel-good story. Dr. Sims, you know how I send those out occasionally, and you said, "I love this story because it was a story of compassion, people
Exactly.
loving one another and coming together and working together." So let me go back to what I started with. So what we are hearing now, because all of a sudden we're not hearing a lot of activity coming out of Minnesota, and the powers to be would want us to believe that everything is calm there, everything is okay. But you're telling me no, it's still an active situation that's going on there.
And there are repercussions of what has happened
Please tell us.
in the last 2 months. So next Sunday, a week from today, is March 1st. On March 1st, for tens of thousands of Minnesotans and millions of people across the United States, on March 1st, the rent comes due. And we have many neighbors here who have been fearful, not just of worshiping on a Sunday, but also going to work on a Monday, and fearful that they will be scooped up and arrested and shipped away. And so thousands of our neighbors have not been able to go to work. And as a result, they do not have the money in the bank to pay their rent 1 week from today.
Wow.
And there is quite a movement afoot to raise the money to help our neighbors pay their rent, and also to raise the political issue that the governor of Minnesota, who is ostensibly a liberal guy, that the governor of Minnesota has the power to enact an eviction moratorium, and to say that for another month, perhaps more, our neighbors should not be faced with eviction because they are unable to pay their rent, because they do not feel safe to go to work. So that is an issue that has blown up in the last week. And I'm proud that the labor movement, small, unfortunately, small as it is, but also the remnants of the racial justice and civil rights movements, are calling on the governor of Minnesota to use his power to enact an eviction moratorium so that our hardworking neighbors are not worrying, are not at risk of being kicked out. Remember, it's the high today was 7 degrees, and people are worried that they and their children are going to find themselves on the street. And people are organizing and acting both in mutual aid and in political activism to protect our neighbors and make sure they still have a roof over their head, that their electricity bills are paid, and that they're able to keep the heat on and stay warm.
This is pretty incredible. And this is what you're saying right now. And then Dr. Sims, I'm sure you would attest to this. You don't hear this on mainstream media. You don't hear about what Peter is doing. the activism there, and they don't talk about that. This is a powerful, what you're saying right now is so powerful. Can you imagine, Dr. Sims, if the entire country would adopt what the Minnesotans are doing right now? That is what God says. Love your
Uh-huh.
brother, protect your brother, look out for your brothers, man.
Uh-huh.
This is so incredible what you guys are doing, and the mainstream media not even touching on what you're telling me, Peter, right now. And so, Dr. Sims, we feel so privileged. I can't speak for you, but in a way I am. We feel so privileged to have you here, Peter, because you're right there. You're at ground zero. Ground
Yeah.
zero, you are right there where the action is. And so what I'm hearing from you is far different what Dr. Sims, what we get on TV. Dr. Sims,
Can I say
what's
something
your
in
take?
there? Oh my gosh. You have some sick people who want to continue with causing division.
Man.
And that's their whole main purpose. I think they're demon filled. I don't care what anybody says. They want to, they don't want to talk about the good in the communities that are happening and people are helping, as you said, Peter. They want the uproar, the uprising, and they keep feeding that to people who can't really think for themselves, who will believe anything that comes across the table. And I have a real issue with that. I have an issue with people who will, they're like little birds and they'll take anything that's been said through media. I had to stop watching media, William, because they were getting on my last nerve. I knew they were. I said, bunch of liars, man, I'm telling you. And it just really, because it is designed to cause emotional unrest and disturbances. It's designed because a lot of people are losing their minds behind this foolishness because they're being controlled subliminally through words and through actions. And then they show, and you got to be careful too with AI because it fabricates a whole bunch of mess. If you don't have your head screwed on straight, you will believe everything that comes across to be factual, and it is not. And I'm gonna encourage people, do the research, man. Don't get all hyped up. Even the Bible talks about that. Don't even run to stuff that is uprising and disturbing. And I applaud you, Peter, for what you're doing. But there's a whole lot of people that are sitting back talking and agreeing with some of these charlatans who are giving false narratives in the news media or in your. I mean, you're getting flooded with it. My phone, my tablet. They don't want you to get away from it. Okay.
Of course not.
But there are some people who are addressing the real. There are some people who are bringing out things and saying, wait a minute, this does not, one and two don't make three, you understand? And so something is not, something is, as they say, cliche, not jiving here. It's not clicking. But people have to now take a step back and decipher what is real. And you have a lot of people who are not capable for doing that because they've been fed the malarkey for years, okay? And to believe a thing that is actual. And I tell you, and I have to, and here's what I do. I have to ask the Lord, is this live or Memorex? Because something sounds fishy here. You know how some of them say math is not math and life is not life and something is unreal. But then too, William, you know how I am about the word of God. In the last days, you're going to have this false lying stuff going on. And one of the things on Terry in the sight of the Lord, I may be getting off, is a liar. Because when you have somebody that just lie, take bits of the truth. Well, look at, you talked about in the garden, Adam, Eve being made. Well, look in the garden. Satan talked part lie and part truth. But the most of it was lying. Okay. So if you're not educated and have the wherewithal to step back and decipher and pick it apart and say something is not like jiving here. He really didn't say it that way. And then they make you believe a thing. This is what gets me. And they know they're lying, these people on the news media and these talk shows. They know they're lying and they're getting paid well to lie. This is what gets me.
You know, Dr. Sims, you're right about that. And I want to direct this back to Peter because speaking of lying, let's talk about the two main or the two most favorite, where there's been a few in Minnesota going all the way back to George Floyd. But let's talk about Renee Good and uh, uh, the gentleman. Oh my God, how can
Alex Pretty.
Alex Pretty? Absolutely, please forgive me for that.
That's all right.
And you have this is where the problem starts, Dr. Sims, in my opinion, and Dr. Radcliffe. In my opinion, it starts with the administration. You think about this. When you start thinking about the hierarchy of the United States, let's talk. You got the president, you got the vice president, okay, and you have all of your cabinet members, the secretary of of the Department of Justice. You have the Secretary of State, and you have all of these officials. DHS, Secretary Noem, AG Pam Bondi. You've got Patel, FBI Director. You have the Supreme Court. You have all of these people in the hierarchy that when the American public hear from these people, we expect to hear the truth. And when these people are lying and forming the narrative, and it's opposite of the truth, that causes distrust and confidence in America. Folks, when it comes to the economy, like the stock market and anything else, this country is built on the truth. When that confidence is eroded, then you tear away from the very fabric. And so, going back to the most recent tragedies there in your state there and close by, you're right there you're in St. Paul, I believe.
Yes, sir.
Peter, you're in St. Paul.
Yes.
And they're getting on TV and they're saying that Alex Pretty came to hurt people because he had a firearm. Well, that's not true. He had a firearm, but he was legally. Now you can't have it both ways. These people that are going against this man and putting him down, these people are Second Amendment advocates to the hilt. They're allowed to carry their firearm. He did not attack any officer that day. They said, well, 11 days ago, he kicked a police officer's car. Well, why didn't you arrest him then for kicking the car? Okay.
But William,
we saw this. Dr. Sims, you can jump right. Yeah. Alex Pretty, okay. The gentleman that was shot and murdered in cold blood on national TV. We saw this. And if you notice, he was trying to help a woman up. That the ICE officers now, growing up, to me, it was taboo for a man to put a hands on his woman, even though men did that. No, you don't put your hands on a woman. These bullies violently pushed the woman down to the ground. Alex went over to help pick her up. They started attacking him. And then so the right wing come on, well, he wasn't complying. Complying to what? Complying to what? He was trying to help a woman. They confronted him. He was backing up with his camera. They tackled him, got on top of him, took his gun, then shot him dead.
10 times.
And then our Department of Justice is going to get up and call him a predator and some other things. And the same thing with Renee Good. They say she was trying to run over their officer. No, she wasn't. She was trying to get away. He was out of the way. And he shot her in the face. Shot 3 times. That's against the law. And they refused to do investigations. This is a travesty. Dr. Sims, Peter, jump in anytime you want. I'm sorry because these things anger me, brother.
you know what? I just, and this is Black history, and I know that's what we're going to talk about more. And I don't want to get into the politics of things that's going on, but I'm really concerned about history, period, and how things have been panning out these days. Um, that's an incidence which is, I have to look at, okay, myself. So I can't give a good assessment of it. I have to look at it because I used to, as I told William, I worked for the police department for a couple of years in my younger years, and a lot of things I've seen. However, with this narrative, there's a lot of things that are going on that is quite disturbing to me. And I think we talked about this the last time I was on. It's been a minute since I've been on, but there's a lot of things that is going on all over the place. People are coming up mysteriously, hanging on trees and things like that. I'm talking about young Black men, okay, are hanging on trees. A lot of things, even with what's going on in your area, Peter, but there's other areas. And then for the police to come and said there's no foul play. Well, he didn't get up on that tree by himself. Okay. So these are the things that, and then a girl being shot for no reason or beat up. And these are a lot of things. There's a whole lot of foul stuff that's going over all over this world. And so I have an issue with that. And then the narratives that they give, it just does not click. Like I said, life is not life and math is not mathing. They feed you what they want you to know. And so you either accept it or reject it. Well, a lot of this stuff I'm rejecting because I can look for myself, okay, and see if I see something. And a lot of times, let me tell you something. A lot of times they'll say, well, this is what it is. It's what, but when you look at it and study, and like, wait a minute, how did you come to that conclusion? When I'm looking right at it, that's like calling me stupid and dumb that I can't see what I see, okay, and hear what I hear. I said before, they want to keep people in a delusional state. They want to keep people in a confused state. They want us at each other's throats because what they're doing is they don't want us to see what they're doing in the background. As long as they can keep us fighting against each other, the mind and fist and what have you, then guess what? They are working out their plan. I mean, I'm telling you, if people would backtrack and sit down for a minute and then just says, I need to see what's real. And that's where I came to Peter in my life these few days. I had to back up and say, wait a minute, some stuff, because it was causing me to have anxiety. And I'm just going to be honest, as doctored up as we are, okay, I had anxiety, but I'm human, and having anxiety and stepping back with this just didn't seem right, okay? People taking their lives and they saying people take their lives, or they arrest somebody and he's dead. From the time he got in his car, he was alive, but by the time he got to the station, he's dead. Okay, what happened to that? Or they threw him or whatever. But that's not what they say they did. They say he resisted arrest and he fits the profile. I got a real issue with people always saying, well, what profile are you talking about? Okay, I need to know the profile. This is the stuff that they're using. So if we want to put everything, let's put everything in one kilter and decipher it, because there's a whole lot of ill will that's going on here. And there's a whole lot of pictures that are being painted are not actual. They want you to believe their narrative so they can keep you at odds with each other, or excited or angry, or having bitterness and hatred. That's not what God intended. God is real and he does not lie or manipulate. I called it, I think I taught this one time, perfected deception, okay? Creative deception, okay? Creative lying, okay? Mind manipulation. And a whole lot of that stuff is going on here. And I won't backtrack on that because it's actual facts. They don't want you to know the truth, period. They don't want you to grasp what is actually going on. They don't. And if we learn to accept that, then guess what? A whole lot of us will step back and says, wait a minute. Okay, wait 1 minute here. It's not what we've been shown that it is. It's what they're doing. Okay. And they are sidewinders, they're liars and manipulators and deceivers and want you to think of their narrative. In other words, they're calling me stupid, okay? That I don't have a right mind to see what I see. And they've been doing this long years before now in courts. They'll tell you, you could see a person, and I'm just going to make this analogy. You could see a person hold a gun and shoot somebody, and they'll tell you, you didn't see what you saw, okay? And they'll have that very picture up there and tell you, you really didn't see what you saw. And I'm like, well, I must be Boo Boo the Clown, okay? Because there's something that's not right here. They're trying to fix my mind and make me think, yeah, and I said this earlier, William, live or Memorex. Well, what's really going on? You're showing the courts, this is in court. You're showing the courts what is actually going, you're making your case. And what you're showing them, because you have an argumentative attorney, one who's trying to defend, right? But you're showing your case and you see what you see. And I'm like, well, what did I miss? I just blinked, okay? And nothing has changed, right? But they'll tell you, you did not see what you see, right? That's just like somebody robbing a bank. You didn't see him make them put money in the bag. That's not what you saw. I'm like, well, what the heck did I see? Okay. So this is the problem that I'm having today, because now you're making me think that I don't have a right to see the actual, and they want me to stop and don't say anything. That's the whole thing. They don't want you to say nothing. Okay. They don't want you to defend. They don't want you to come out and say, wait a minute, this is not right. They want you to keep in a stupid state so they can continue doing what they're doing. Period.
You know, hey, Peter, I want you please comment on that, because that's been the narrative. As a matter of fact, I think the president of the United States said on TV, I think during the first term, don't believe what you saw on TV. Don't believe what you saw. And Peter, you can take any part of Dr. Sims' dialogue and dissect it a little bit, because this is the whole thing about it is they change the narrative. I agree with you, Dr. Sims, because you saw them shoot Alex Preddy. It's a whole different thing. Peter, I said in the beginning of this broadcast, if you look at how things are presented right now, and especially coming out of this administration, it is never what they claim it to be. Blowing up the boats off of Venezuela, they said it was about drugs, didn't they? But the whole idea is it was about the oil and the minerals and things of that nature, because there weren't drug boats coming here to the United States, because those boats couldn't have made it here. It was about regime change, and it was about their oil. Otherwise, and I've never heard of this before, Peter, please address this. The United States is selling that oil, and Donald Trump has opened up a bank account in Qatar to deposit the money. If this is legit, why isn't it going to the U.S. Treasury instead of a bank in Qatar? The United States has no jurisdiction in Qatar. Who is in control of that money? So it wasn't about drugs coming to the United States. It's the Epstein files. You got so many things that's going on. They will tell you, look right, when actually the action is going on the left side. Anything that's coming out of this administration right now is the opposite of what they are trying to feed us. Peter, the floor is yours.
Well, I want to be positive, and I want to talk about what we're not hearing that people are doing to help each other. And a part of the story that's getting really no attention whatsoever is the role that Native Americans are playing in supporting and protecting their and our immigrant neighbors. And you would think, I mean, one of the things that's happened is that a significant number of Native Americans have been arrested by ICE. I mean, who's got the roots here? And because there are people of color, ICE is racially profiling people on the streets, and have scooped up a number of Native Americans. The Native American community as a whole has just so. Let me try to give you the backstory. So
Please.
the Center for ICE and the Department of Homeland Security and the Border Patrol Agency, that all of them are at a place that is called Fort Snelling. And Fort Snelling, which is federal government property, is a military center. Now we can back up and go to 1857 when there was an enslaved man named Dred Scott and his wife Harriet, and they were held in slavery by a military lieutenant in the American Army, and they sued for their freedom, and the United States Supreme Court ruled in 1857 that Dred Scott did not have the right to sue because he was a black man. And that passed as a Supreme Court decision in 1857 and helped lead to the Civil War, because people said that's not right. That this man, first of all, slavery was supposedly illegal in Minnesota. And yet, here was a U.S. military installation that had enslaved men. And one of the ways some of us tell the story now in Minnesota is that the U.S. military used enslaved men and women to make the food, to make the clothes, to make all of the things that they then spun a narrative that when they looked at Native Americans and they said, the white military said, they're uncivilized. We're civilized. And we know that we're civilized by the food that we eat. And we know that we're civilized by the clothes that we wear. And all of that was being produced by the labor of enslaved African Americans in the 1840s and 1850s here in Minnesota. That's a piece of our history that people don't often hear, and that Donald Trump wants to make sure that people don't hear. Well, in 1862, the United States military went to war against the Dakota people, the indigenous people who were living here in Minnesota. In January of 1863, Abraham Lincoln one day issued the Emancipation Proclamation, and the next day issued an executive order for the hanging of 37 Dakota men in Mankato, Minnesota. And their families, their community, were forced to march from Mankato, Minnesota to Fort Snelling, to the very place where ICE now has its headquarters here in Minnesota. 2 weeks ago, Native Americans put up a protest encampment on the border of Fort Snelling. They pitched teepees, Every day they hold religious rituals to pray for their immigrant neighbors, to say that they should be allowed to live freely with the rest of us here in Minnesota. And that Native Americans are leading this campaign. You will not find that in the New York Times. You will not find that on CBS News. The one place you will find it, which is fascinating, is that you will find it in the Guardian newspaper, which is published in London, England. It's the one place where you can find trustworthy news about what's going on. Standing next to our Native American neighbors is our African American clergy. They have been leading. 3 weeks ago, 100 ministers kneeled at the Minneapolis St. Paul airport in protest against airplanes that were taking immigrants to detention camps in Texas, New Mexico, Florida, taking them away from their children, taking them away from their families. And 100 ministers, a majority of them African American, were arrested on Friday, January 23rd at the Minneapolis St. Paul airport, protesting how our immigrant neighbors were being treated. Now, there ain't nobody poorer economically here in Minnesota than our Native American and African American neighbors.
That's amazing.
And yet they're standing up. They're standing up for their and our immigrant neighbors. They are role models for all of us here. And we're honored to be in community with them. I've just come from a meeting late this afternoon by activists in the labor movement. A week ago, we had an assembly of 450 people from the labor movement. And today was a meeting of the executive committee that pulled that together. And we are calling for a nationwide general strike on May 1st. A nationwide general strike, not just to get ICE out of Minnesota. Stop funding them. Let's get rid of the Department of Homeland Security. What a waste of money this is. What a travesty this is that our country is doing this. So the roles being played by Indigenous Americans and African Americans is not on the front page of the New York Times, and it deserves to be.
I am so proud of you, Peter, and what you guys are doing there. And I want to thank you for bringing your information to our tiny little network. And even though we go around the globe, we aren't where we need to be and what we should be, because mainstream media, they hog they have millions and millions. The danger with mainstream media, they have millions and millions and millions of people, and they allow this and disinformation to permeate throughout the airways, and it's not right. It's not right. I appreciate you because you are there. You're right there. It's not hearsay. It's not third party, or second or third party. You have a direct. It's like looking out of your window and seeing what's going on because you're right there on the scenes and the sidelines. And I'm proud of you, my brother, for being an activist and helping out your brothers and sisters, our brothers and sisters right there in Minnesota. And that is positive. because that gives me hope that if you can do it there in Minnesota, you can do it anywhere.
Yep.
And Dr. Sims, that's what we need to do. Love on our brothers, support our brothers, right? And
That's what God
if
tells
somebody
us to do.
says, yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And they're telling us, don't believe your eyes. Don't believe what you're seeing. Okay. Yeah, I shot him in the head, but no, you didn't see that.
Yeah, right. I wasn't holding the gun. That was in the air.
Yeah. Dr. Sims, continue. And then let's get back to Peter, because whatever you have to say, Peter, I'm all ears. I really appreciate you, man. We love having you on the program. Every time I say, Peter, Radcliffe is coming on and say, yay.
Well,
you always have a platform here, Peter. Always.
Thank you. I'm honored. Thank you.
I just want to, and I know that this is the final week of Black History, and I want to bring out something, if I may, William, if I may.
Dr. Sims, that's what the world says. That's not here. Okay, we're going to continue to talk about it.
You know what? My Black history is every day of my life, 365, 24/7. And so that's where I stand. But I appreciate them allowing the shortest month in the year for many devastations that our people have been under, and some of them are still under scrutiny. I mean, it has not ended. I don't want anybody to walk around and says, "Oh my goodness!" So I put on the Black History, attire, and then I'm proud of who I am. Of course, I am. But I told you, and I think I told William earlier, if everybody just put down their swords and stop manipulating and things like that, what a better world this is going to be if people would just do right by each other. And that's what God requires, is for us to love, period. Now, I do know about the laws in the land. I do know how you have to abide by the laws in the land. It is. And I question sometimes, because even some of my surroundings, people are getting away with stuff, but I'm abiding by them. I just don't get, because of the color of my skin, then I have to be held to scrutiny, to abiding by the laws. And then you have some of my sisters and brothers who have come over here who are for their people. And I get it. I really do. I get it. But I do get more that I know we all have suffered. I think people are putting a measure on their suffering, and many have suffered, and some are still suffering. But what I want to bring out, William, there's something that I came across. You know how Black Friday, and it just really hit my spirit really tough. And if we don't do our research, we'll believe anything. If I can play this little notation about Black Friday, let me turn it up here. And Peter, I'm sure you know this.
And everything to do with Black people being sold at a discount. Did you know the original Black Friday had nothing to do with shopping and everything to do with Black people being sold at a discount?
Okay. Had to do with everything with the slaves being sold as a discount. And then they turn around and make Black Friday some kind of progress. You're saving money, When people don't know the history, then guess what? Oh my God, I'm going to Walmart and I can get a TV for half, you see, and not even putting together on what this has meant. It's meant that back history, and it has not changed the narrative, that slaves were sold at a bargain price. Okay. Black Friday. That's what it meant. Black. That's what they call me. Black. You understand? And so people need to understand that some of these things that you need to learn, so that you don't get so excited. You're still being manipulated, period, because they mark these things down, talking about marking things down at a good price. No, you mark them up, first of all, okay, at a high price. Let's get real here. And then you mark them down, and it was not even to the price, the low price where they actually are, because you paid pennies on the dollar. Okay, it is what it is. Everybody's trying to get a big margin. So we need to get savvy and what is actually going on and monitor your dollars is what I'm trying to say. Don't be so gullible. And then there's another one that MF, the mother, I don't want to say the word, you know what I mean, Peter. Okay.
Mhm.
When they say mother, you know, if you look in history, that word came from when they led their sons into their mothers, their heads were covered to not see the woman that they were making them have sex with, which was actually their mother, their biological mother. The mother's head was covered. And that's where they got that word, mother effer. Okay, let's be real here. And so I listen to the world and they use this terminology so loosely, like it's just so funny, and they don't know the history behind it. I mean, if people would know the history behind it, they would stop saying these things. And I know, listen, some of my white predecessors, they know what it means, period. Let's be real. Let's be real here. Okay. But they like people to stay in the dark. Okay. And to go on with these narratives that they've established and none the wiser. And you're looking like a clown because you're not getting the picture, you're not understanding what they brought to you. There is another narrative where I wanted to bring out about, and I think I told William about, no, I didn't tell him about this one. And I want you to hear this. This had to do with a left-handed child who did something tremendous. Uh-oh, what did I do?
To write with her teeth, and that skill would save thousands of World War II veterans. According to Wikipedia and BlackPast, Bessie Blount Griffin was born in 1914 in segregated Virginia, forced to attend a one-room schoolhouse with no textbooks built for formerly enslaved children. Punished for writing left-handed, she didn't just learn ambidexterity. She trained herself to write holding a pencil in her mouth and with her toes. After WY, while working as a physical therapist at Bronx Hospital, she saw amputee veterans who couldn't feed themselves losing their dignity. She told them, "You're not crippled, only crippled in your mind." Then she invented an electric feeding tube that delivered food with each bite. Patients controlled it entirely by biting down. She received U.S. Patent 2550-554 in 1951. But the American Veterans Administration rejected it. So Blount gave it to France for free, saying, "A black woman can invent something for the benefit of humankind." France used it in military hospitals across the country. She then became a forensic scientist, the first black woman accepted to Scotland Yard's document division in 1977. She died in 2009 at 95. Punished for being left-handed, she ended up feeding thousands with her feet and teeth. Follow for the scientists they erased. When teachers slap
Now,
knuckles for
and Peter, I know this is fact. Excuse me, let me cut this off. I'm left-handed, and my mom sent me and my sisters to a Catholic school, and I'm left-handed all the way. And I used to get beat on the back of my hand with a ruler because they said a left-handed person is demonically infested. Okay. And she used to beat me every day. That's why I can use both of my hands. Okay. But until when we were radical, me and my sister, we were just little kids, little tots. And my sister grabbed the nun around her leg and I grabbed her around the waist. Okay. And so, of course, we got kicked out of the school, and that's fine. But I do know this is a fact. But this lady, what got my attention as she taught herself how to use her mouth. Okay. And then later on, she went as being a nurse handling amputees, white, black, didn't matter. They were
Left-handed
so
people?
had low self-esteem because they could not feed themselves. But because of what she went through, she used that pain to invent something that would bring some type of hope to the men with amputees, that encouraged them, okay, to feel better about themselves, that they could do something for themselves. And see, this is the kind of history that I'm loving, right? But the problem I had, they didn't want to really give her credit for it. Now, she died in 1951. That's the year I was born. And they did not want to give her credit for that. So guess she had to hand it over, okay, as if she had no part of it. And so this is a lot of the history that I need for my people and any other persons, because any other ethnic group have their history. Everybody has their history. The Native American, I'm part Native American, period. It is what it is. Okay. And we all have that history. And I love the history. I need to know about my people because I told people I'm a mutt. I'm so mixed up. Don't call me black. I'm mixed up, period. But my thing is this is that I need to know every background that I came from and what gifts they have to offer for each ethnic group. But what's being fed today, and I don't want to go back into politics, is the hatred that caused division and to make people think that there's one group better than the other. That really gets under my skin. When I was in high school, I was the peacemaker. I'm just going to be honest here. I couldn't understand why we could hold hands during the school year. But at the end of the school year, everybody wanted to fight. I'm like, that's the same person you just hugged on last week, saying, I love you, brother. I love you, sis. And then at the end of the
Mhm.
school year, you want to fight. And I'm the mediator. I'm like, what is that? And that really used to bug me. And it still bugs me today because we have our own people against their people, which is my people. And there, to me, the love is
Mm.
not as such as God requires. And that's the key word is love. If we were to love better, if we were to move our ideology of things out of our minds and get it together, because love conquers all, period. Okay, period. But my thing is this there's no one person better than anybody. And that's my take on. Let me stop. I got a couple more things, but I'm going to turn it. I'm going to, because
That's
I'm
okay.
so full.
That's quite all right.
Very full. I'm
I'm gonna jump in. I
listening.
really want. No, that's okay, Dr. Sims. I love that. I'm also a lefty.
Oh,
Also a
no
lefty.
wonder we don't get along. I'm
Now,
teasing. I'm teasing.
what
I'm
what
teasing.
what what most people don't realize that lefties are only about 10 to 12% of the entire population of the world. And if you look at it, there is left-handed people think from one side of the brain and
The
right-handed
right
people.
side.
And
Exactly.
Peter, I
Yep.
know you know something about this. I know you're a historian. You know this, okay? And left-handed people happen to be multitaskers, and it
Yes.
was looked at a deformity, or they wanted to, or the majority. You have to understand, everything has a reason, right?
Mm,
The majority wants you to know that left-handed people, there was something wrong with you being left-handed. The opposite is true. Music, sports, comedy,
very
entertainment,
creative.
a lot very creative. Left-handed people are very creative people because we think on the opposite side of our brains. And I'm gonna read something that when you brought this up, I said, "Oh, now she's in my wheelhouse right now." According to science.org, leftists can oftentimes be better multitaskers because they have a larger corpus callosum, or part of the brain that facilitates communication between two hemispheres. If you know someone who is good at multitasking, then you will want to see if they are left-handed because it is possible. And it goes on and on and on and on. I love being left-handed because I
Me too.
love being different. I love being different and I love being creative. And my background, because I went to school on a music scholarship, okay? But that's neither here nor there. But man, we only have 5 minutes to go. And Peter,
Ooh,
I don't know when we get a chance to get you back on because you always have a platform here, my friend. Okay.
Thank you.
These last 5 minutes are yours, my friend.
Well, let me offer a little bit of history in light of what you've both been saying. There's an excellent book called "The Half Has Never Been Told"
nice.
by a
Wow.
historian named Sven Beckert, and it's about the labor of enslaved men and women in picking cotton. And Beckert tells us that because every day the overseer would set a quota for how much cotton each man or woman was supposed to
Mm,
pick, and those who did not reach the quota were beaten, were whipped. That enslaved men and women became ambidextrous in order to pick cotton simultaneously from two rows, one with the right hand, one with the left hand. And he found that out because he used this source called the WPA, Works Progress Administration, the WPA slave narratives. And in the late 1930s, the New Deal, in creating jobs during the Great Depression, created jobs for unemployed college professors, unemployed graduate students, gave them tape recorders, and sent them into the South. Again, this is the 1930s, looking for still alive, formerly enslaved men and women to take their oral histories. Ultimately, more than 2,000 oral histories were collected. There is today 66 volumes of the WPA slave narratives. And you can find the digital versions through the Library of Congress.
Wow.
And so living enslaved men and women were able to tell their own stories. That historians like Sven Beckert were not dependent upon the story. And to go back to your points earlier, both of you, about who writes the narrative, whose story gets told, whose story is dominant, how we're struggling with that today. Historians have struggled with that. How can we tell the story of enslaved men and women if the primary sources we have access to are sources that were put together by their enslavers? How do we find what enslaved men and women experienced and told their own stories? And so Beckert used those sources, wrote this book entitled The Half Has Never Been Told. And it's given me a new way to think about who's left-handed, who's right-handed, who's ambidextrous, and what does that have to do with racism? What does that have to do with exploitation? What does that have to do with labor? And so you knew I would cycle us back to talking about those kinds of issues. And they're relevant in the past as well as in the present.
Nice.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Nice.
This has been fascinating. Dr. Sims, thank you so much. Peter, you always have a platform here. I'm going to call you soon. I don't want to overstay my welcome.
No, sir. No, sir. You won't.
Okay, but very good.
All
This
right.
has been outstanding. Guys, thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. This has been an epic broadcast. The Boomerang. Dr. Sims can't thank you enough. Peter, this has been so much fun. Oh my goodness.
My
And we only scratched the surface. We only scratched the surface, my
only
friend.
scratch the surface.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Guys, enjoy your Sunday.
Soon.
This has been
All
so
right.
much fun. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye.
All right, enjoy your night.
Can I get on
That was
here?
great.
Yeah, it was very great.
Outstanding.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sims. Thank
No
you, darling.
problem. No problem. How do I get